So, Black Ops 6 has been out for a while now, and I figure I should finally talk about the game. I've enjoyed making videos talking about most of the games to have come out in this long-standing franchise, and I've been a COD fan since day one. I grew up playing the World War II campaign games, and I got into multiplayer gaming at the perfect time. I became a multiplayer gamer during the days of Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare and Call of Duty World at War. A lot has changed and evolved with this franchise from 2007 to 2024 when Black Ops 6 came out. It's truly amazing to look back and see how the graphics and many gameplay elements have changed. Over the past couple of years, the franchise has tried to mix in the old nostalgia with the modern gameplay mechanics and trends of today. Every year, gamers usually criticize Call of Duty by claiming that the game is the same every year. Now, that statement is true with some things, but I would argue Call of Duty today has done a lot to make each entry feel different from the rest. The most recent entry to the series, Black Ops 6, is the perfect example of that. As an old-school Call of Duty fan, I enjoy the Black Ops style of storytelling. Multiplayer and zombies is always fun. However, all is not perfect. There have been some changes to the COD formula that aren't that great, and there's been some controversy in regards to the way they are creating content for this game. But I find myself enjoying the game from time to time, and you know what? I don't play Call of Duty every day like I used to, and maybe that's for the better. This game might be a more enjoyable experience for those that don't play it every day. So today, I want to talk about Black Ops 6, a game that does a lot right, but it also has many issues that have led to gamers and streamers to quit playing and go find a different title to play. So, let's talk about Black Ops 6. Black Ops 6 is packed with content. There's a decent-sized campaign with a unique take on things, more on that in a moment. Multiplayer includes the usual assortment of game modes and elements, but the live service actually does enough to keep the game fresh. Zombies mode features some cool maps, and having things like the ability to save your game in a single-player match or a story-focused mode are awesome additions. Now, I'm not a Warzone player, so I don't have much to say on that mode, but I'll give my take on everything else that the game has to offer. And I'll dive into each of these modes in a moment, but the first thing I wanted to bring up is the omni-movement system, which was first introduced in this game. It's a gameplay mechanic that allows for more versatile movement. The new movement system allows players to seamlessly chain combat maneuvers in any direction. This includes things like sprinting, diving, and sliding. Heck, you can even use this when you're trying to get out of water and back onto land. This is the smoothest movement we have ever seen in a Call of Duty game, and it's probably one of the best feeling games in all of the shooter genre. I could finally play a shooter where my character will move in the exact way that I would move if that was me running around with a gun playing domination. In this game, I can position myself however I want when it comes to a situation where I need to defend a point in domination or defend the bomb that I just planted in search and destroy. The movement can be a little overwhelming, especially when you're going against players that are really good at this game, because of course they could do exactly what you do, and it is something that takes a little bit getting used to. It drives me nuts sometimes to see people sliding and diving around, but honestly, I would rather play with and against omnidirectional movement over playing a game like Advanced Warfare or even Infinite Warfare. Those games were a part of the exosuit and jetpack era for COD, and I wasn't a fan. The gameplay in those games was more chaotic and unbalanced. The omnidirectional movement adds depth and variety to the gameplay from moment to moment, and I'm a big fan. Black Ops campaigns always try to follow history while mixing in their own Hollywood effect to it. It usually turns out to be pretty good, and Black Ops 6, I would say, reached that mark despite a few questionable storytelling decisions. Black Ops 6 is set in the early 90s, which was a period of transition and changes throughout global politics. The Cold War was ending, and the United States was becoming a global superpower. The campaign is basically a spy action thriller combined with a mind-bending narrative. It feels like a signature Black Ops campaign, I'll give them that. But the gameplay twists are a bit questionable. Unlike in MW3's campaign, the developers actually put effort into this one. It's more than just running and gunning in a handful of missions. There's multiple ways to approach missions, and there's dialogue trees to use when communicating with other characters. Like in Cold War, there's a safe house where you and your team plan out missions, and you can use cash you find throughout the game to buy operator perks that improve weapons and equipment. Campaign missions also reward players with cosmetic items that can be used in multiplayer and zombies, and those things include weapon blueprints, player skins, stickers, and weapon charms. Like I said before, the campaign offers a lot. Missions take you around the world from Iraq to Washington, D.C., to a European casino, and we even go back to the famous Vorkuta prison. The game mixes in a variety of gameplay styles. You have some stealth, some action, and even some hallucination-based moments that feature zombies thanks to a psychochemical weapon. And this is so much better than that MW3 boring and bland mission design in which half the campaign was just roaming around open areas completing objectives. I don't want to go mission by mission, but I will say the variety of settings, gameplay, and scenarios is entertaining and fun to play through, and it keeps things fresh. Returning characters like Adler and Woods add that familiar Black Ops swag, and the new characters are all pretty cool too, and they add a fresh dynamic to the story and the relationships between other characters. The only complaint I have with the campaign comes from those couple of missions that rely on the hallucination moments that featured monsters or zombies. The bad guys in the story, the Pantheon, created a bioweapon called the Cradle. They had hoped that the weapon would help create super soldiers, and it ultimately turns a person mad and very violent. In the middle of the campaign, your character inhales the gas and begins to hallucinate undead creatures. The mission feels like a mission from Doom. You have to explore different areas, fight bosses, grab keys in order to progress through the mission. In the long history of Call of Duty campaigns, we never had a mission like this. So at first it was pretty cool. The battles were intense, and there were even some scary moments too, especially when the creepy mannequins would sneak around and follow you and do sneak attacks when you weren't looking. And honestly, I could live with a mission being like this. However, in the second to last mission, we learn about why and how Harrow, a former ally, betrayed you and your crew. You play as Harrow in this mission as you learn her backstory. We see how her parents died right in front of her when she was a child, and that was impactful and emotional. Then the mission turns into a psychological thriller as you battle more zombies and jump across floating objects as Harrow fights to break free from this other drug that she's been basically brainwashed with, and it's basically controlling her thoughts and emotions. It's just a jarring transition to go from spy thriller missions and combat missions in Iraq to missions that turn the game into a psychological horror story. Some of these ideas would be great for zombies, yet none of them carry over to zombies. But I'll touch on zombies more in a moment. Overall, the campaign is worth playing. I just wish the developers didn't move the focus off of the cool spy thriller moments like when you're snooping around Washington, D.C. at a political event, or even that one open world combat mission they give you in which you're working with the British Army and they help you attempt to lay siege on Saddam Hussein's palace. So while the campaign was good, I would say it really wasn't accurate to the marketing that was done prior to the game's release. Now let's move on to multiplayer. The game was off to a good start originally. The game launched with 16 brand new maps. The gun selection was alright. I feel like we could have got a few more snipers, shotguns, and launchers at release. But players rejoiced for the return of the Prestige system, which offers the best long-term progression we have ever seen in a Call of Duty multiplayer mode. There's specific rewards that you can unlock for each Prestige you reach, and you can even pick a level in which you unlock whatever guns or equipment are available that you unlock for that level itself, so you could carry it on with you all the time. This Prestige system is way better than what we had years ago. Do you remember when you would Prestige and have to restart everything? You'd have to start from scratch with all the progression. I also love the fact that your weapon progression is saved too. You don't have to start from level 1 again, and you don't have to unlock every attachment again. I'm an old school gamer who has never loved microtransactions, and if you go watch a lot of my other videos on this channel, you'll be well aware of where I stand with it. And the game is littered with all sorts of cosmetics. It does annoy me that you could play as a shark, a zombie, a demon, an anime chick, and so on. It's the over-the-top Fortnite shit that I don't like about this game, but it's not all that bad. There's been quite a few double XP weekends, which makes it worthwhile to hop on the game during the weekend and play with some friends. The different themes and events help keep the game fresh, though I do wish it was more grounded in reality. It's fun to come back to this game from time to time because the content and the progression system is the best we've seen in COD ever. Outside of the microtransactions, my biggest complaints in the multiplayer stem from the maps and the game modes. This is where Call of Duty falls into that same thing every year discussion. There's 12 modes in the game, and I appreciate the amount, but we play these modes every year. Team Deathmatch, Kill Confirmed, Hardpoint, Search and Destroy, Nuketown 24/7. There's a variety of maps when it comes to settings, but most of the maps are designed for close quarters chaos. One of the best additions to come to COD in the last couple of years was Gunsmith. Being able to fully customize a gun to your playstyle is awesome, but you don't need a gun with a variable scope or other parts that allow for greater accuracy or damage at long range, because you will be killing people 3 to 5 feet away from you most of the time. Ground War does not exist in this game, and while Call of Duty Ground War hasn't really been that special in the past, I welcomed the big map so I could snipe or use a marksman rifle comfortably. I feel like the combination of the new omni-movement system and Gunsmith could open the doors for new design ideas for game modes and maps. Call of Duty has the opportunity here to truly come up with some tactical gameplay and modes, thanks to these features, and yet they don't do that for some reason. My final complaint is about skill-based matchmaking, something you've probably heard a lot of people complain about. Is it really that hard to make competitive playlists or ranked playlists for people that want to play in those kinds of highly skilled matches? My friends and I should not be punished for winning our first game of the night and then proceed to get absolutely wrecked in the next 3 matches because we're playing against the top 100 players in the damn game. Like, come on, how many other multiplayer shooters have playlists that are designed for the hardcore players? There's no excuse for that at this point. I have really enjoyed playing zombies with friends too. The classic round-based zombies mode has returned with a couple of cool maps. I'm a fan of the maps so far. They each come with a different vibe and their own sets of unique challenges. And I'll admit, I'm really out of the loop when it comes to the story, and I really don't care for it, but the character conversation and objectives to work on help you get through the experience and not feel bored. A lot of effort was put into the maps, and each of these maps has its own main quest and side quests and Easter eggs, and I'm a big fan of that directed mode too, which allows you to play through the main quests with help. The perks and gumballs add more to the gameplay and allow you to basically strategize your class build as you play through the rounds. You could also research upgrades for perks, field upgrades, and mods with augments. And it's simple too. All you have to do is pick something to research, and the research is done while you play matches. I actually like the fact that you don't have to worry about it much, and hey, we finally get a feature in a game that rewards you just for playing the game. I also love the fact that all your progression is connected between multiplayer and zombies. So if you complete a zombie match where you get 2,000 kills with the M4, well, congrats, because you leveled up quite a bit and probably have a few more camos unlocked. And I have one more set of complaints before I wrap things up here, and this stuff is pointed directly at Activision. They have come under fire recently for cheating issues, using AI to create content, and recasting voice actors for prominent characters. I'll address the cheating thing very quickly. A lot of it is stemming from Warzone, which I don't play, but you know it's a problem when some of the biggest streamers and biggest Call of Duty players out there are quitting the game and are going to play other titles. If cheaters are shutting down game lobbies and are winning most of the matches, then what's the point of playing the mode? Hell, I already dislike the mode because the maps aren't good in my opinion, and how do you play a survival mode when guys are wearing neon glowing character skins and are shooting tracer rounds that make it look like a Star Wars battle? Yes, it's Battle Royale, but it should be taken much more seriously than Fortnite. Regardless of my opinion on Warzone, the fans should be allowed to play the mode and enjoy it without stupid cheaters ruining it. No excuse for a multi-million-dollar company to not have this figured out. Now to the recasting of voice actors. Most of the actors from Zombies left the game due to a lack of AI protections in their contracts. This was brought to light when Zeke Alton, the voice of William Peck, claimed the performance of Peck was not his, but also suggested that the lack of crediting the other actor implies that it still may be his voice. He also believes the voice could be AI generated. And like I said earlier, I'm not really into the story of Zombies, but I'm not a fan of AI taking jobs, and Activision being one of the many companies that's probably looking for ways to use AI instead of actual people. Lastly, Activision should be embarrassed about all the sloppy AI-generated assets that are in this game. There's the image of a zombie dressed as Santa having 6 fingers. There's another image with a hand holding gobblegums, and that hand also has 6 fingers. Even the normal-looking calling cards look AI-generated. They're bland, they're boring, they're nothing exciting. The calling cards and emblems are lame as hell, and of course you have to spend money to get the cool ones. The ones you unlock via playing the game are boring. There's hardly any default emblems in the game either to begin with. Remember how cool the emblems and calling cards were back in the early days of Call of Duty multiplayer? The Modern Warfare games had some cool ones back in the day. And there's no excuse for a company like Activision, who has all the resources, the money and the manpower, to be lazy and just use AI to create their content. And you know what's funny? If AI is truly making most of the cosmetics in this game, well then, where's the unique game modes and maps? If the developers aren't making the skins and calling cards themselves, well, what are they doing in the game then? Black Ops 6 is a solid game in my opinion. My perspective comes from a fan that only hops on occasion, maybe a couple times a week at most. I don't play every day, and even if I had the time, I don't think the game is worth playing every day. You don't get rewarded much for playing the game anymore, and it's nothing new. I've complained about it. A lot of people have complained about it over the years, but the fact that you have to buy most of the cool stuff in this game just makes me want to go play something else. But I appreciate the effort put into this game compared to that MW3 garbage we got, which was nothing but a waste of time and resources. The campaign was fun, even with the questionable decisions to add monsters, horror, and hallucinations. The multiplayer mode is fun but average. It's good enough to enjoy. But honestly, I expect so much more from a company like Activision at this point. The two best things about it are the new omni-movement system and the progression system. If it weren't for these two things, it would be tough to sell people on playing this game daily. The zombie mode is a lot of fun whether you care about the story or not. I think we could all appreciate the maps, the many gameplay elements, and the research as you play upgrade system. I give this game, I'd say, a 7 out of 10. I just provided a mixed bag of thoughts, but since I don't play this game every day, I think I'm more relaxed about it. I'm not going to sit here and tell people to stop playing. If you enjoy the game, then cool, keep on playing. If the issues with AI, cheating, and the lack of new stuff bothers you, well, then just don't play the game as much or at all, whatever tickles your fancy. Well, thanks for checking out the video. Let me know your thoughts on Black Ops 6 down below. Curious to hear what you guys have to say about it. Shout out to all the subscribers out there, and if you're new here, well, consider subscribing for more. Thanks again, and take care.